Hello all and welcome to this tutorial on AWS Database Migration Services or DMS. Today we will discuss how to migrate data from MySQL server to a S3 bucket. Before we go further ahead with the tutorial, a couple of things to keep in mind. First is that not all AWS DMS replication instances are free. So in case you happen to do this tutorial by yourself later, you can potentially incur charges for DMS service and DMS replication instances. Second thing to keep in mind that if you are doing this tutorial later on your own, ensure that you clean up your resources after the tutorial is over in order to avoid any future surprise charges. Now for this particular tutorial, it requires a certain amount of pre-prep, and all the steps that I have enlisted on this slide, I have actually gone ahead and completed those steps in order to move further ahead with the actual database migration steps. So you'll require a certain amount of pre-prep, that is setting up both the data, the target and the source data sources, and also creating a table, a database and a table in MySQL and inserting a few records. So let us review through all the pre-prep steps. The first thing that you will need to do is you need to create an empty S3 bucket named MyDMS bucket for CSV. Now that is the bucket name that I have used in this tutorial. You are free to use any other bucket name as well. Just ensure that the bucket is empty. Even if you have something in the bucket, it should not typically matter. The second thing is launch a MySQL RDS instance in your default VPC or in your custom VPC. Now for this particular tutorial, I have launched my MySQL RDS instance in my default VPC. You can potentially even go ahead and launch it in your custom VPC. When you are launching your MySQL RDS instance, ensure that you use the free tier and you use the instance type as dbt2 micro with MySQL version 5.7x. One thing to keep in mind is that the version of MySQL is very important because DMS does not work with any version that is higher than 5.7. It is typically compatible with version 5.5, 5.6, and 5.7. The next thing after we have launched our MySQL RDS server instance is we will launch a Amazon Linux EC2 instance in the same VPC and preferably the same AZ as well. And in the security group for our Linux EC2 instance, ensure that you have inbound ports 22 and 3306 open. 3306 is the port used by MySQL. And since this is going to be a client and it will communicate with our MySQL server, we need to ensure that port 3306 is open. And 22 is for us to SSH and create databases, tables, or even check, insert records and check how many records are there. Okay, that's just for basic client-server interaction. Okay. The next thing that we need to do is we need to modify our RDS security group. So the RDS server that we launched over here creates either its own security group, or if you're using an existing security group, you need to ensure that you provide access to EC2's security group and VPC's default security group. Now, the reason why you need the EC2, that is the instance that you created in step 3, that EC2 security group, because that EC2 is going to connect to our MySQL server. It is the client. And the default VPC security group is because the replication instance that we will launch, it is typically associated with VPC's default security group. If you are creating a separate security group for your replication instance, then you need to ensure that that security group is able to communicate with RDS on port 3306, just like this port right here. Okay, the next thing that you need to do after you have done your basic setup is SSH into your EC2 instance and switch or change to the root user, and that the command for that is sudo su, and go ahead and install the MySQL client, and this is the command sudo yum install MySQL. And after you have installed MySQL, you need to go ahead and create a database called as library and a table named books, and insert a few records in the books table. Now, what I have done is I've actually created mysql.txt. It is right here on GitHub. The URL is right here. I will even have it posted in the description of this video. So if you want, you can go ahead and download this file from GitHub as well and use it for your own tutorial. So let us switch to MySQL txt and look at this particular file. So this is MySQL txt, and as you see, the first line over here is create database library, and you can use this command to create the database. The next thing that we are going to do is create the table books. So, and this is the schema of our books table. As you see, it has 4 columns, and the primary key is the book ID. And after we have created the books table, what you need to do is you need to insert these 5 records in the books table. So as you see, we have 5 different books over here: MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, and Aurora. It is a pretty simple table, and keep it simple, guys, so that you can focus more on the replication rather than focusing on the database and the table's contents. Okay. Okay, so I will have this particular MySQL txt posted on this particular GitHub URL. So you can probably download it from there and use it for your own tutorial when you're practicing. Okay, so these are the core steps. So let's move on to the actual set of steps where we begin with the data migration. Okay, so before we go there, I'm going to switch to my AWS account and let us review through a couple of things. So the first thing that I want to review is the S3 bucket. So my S3 bucket is right here, as you see. It's with the same name and it is empty. So our bucket is there. So our target is present. The next thing you want to ensure that our source is present. So this is my RDS MySQL instance. As you see, it's right here, my DMS 2018. And I believe the instance is available, and we should be able to see the instance details shortly, especially the instance endpoint is very important. So it is right here, scroll down. So this is the engine, as you see, is 5.7, DB2 micro, instance is available, and this is our endpoint and on port 3306. And again, my default security group and my EC2 security group are able to communicate to this particular RDS instance on port 3306. So let's quickly just check that as well to ensure our setup is right and complete. So the security group should come up shortly. And there it is. And this is inbound. And there you go. This is my EC2 security group, and this is my default security VPC security group. And they're communicating on port 3306. So perfect. And after that, I think, so I've copy pasted my SQL server endpoint right here. This is the endpoint, and this is the endpoint that we will use to also connect from our client. Okay, and this is my DB name, username, and password. As you see, they're all the same. I mean, this is just to ensure that I don't forget it, guys. Okay, I mean, you don't want to spend time debugging that your password was wrong. Okay, so this is coming back to our RDS instance, and these are rest of the other default uh, properties. So as you see, they're all right here. Okay, so our server is also up, so our source is up as well. And finally, this is my EC2 instance right here. And where is my EC? Oh, this is not EC2 instance. Okay, sorry, that was a security group. Let me quickly switch to my EC2 instance. So this should come up shortly. I have one EC2 instance, which is my client actually, and where the MySQL client has already been installed and it is up and running right here. And this is the public IP. So you can copy this and you can putty into this right there. Okay. So what I have done is I've actually connected to my EC2 instance right here, as you see. So let me just go ahead and clear everything. So I'll switch to the root account now, and then we will connect to my SQL server. So the command to connect to my SQL server is this. So MySQL -h, the entire DNS of your MySQL server, hyphen capital P is the port, the username, and then it'll prompt you for the password. So I'm going to Control C, copy this command, paste it right here, and click enter. And again, my password is my DMS 2018, and there it is. So I'm connected. So let us quickly see what databases are there on this server. So show databases. As you see, a library database is right there. So use library, and the database has been changed, and we can go ahead and see the what tables are there in this database. As you see, a books table is present, and then we will say select star from books. And as you see, we have our 5 records. We can see the schema of the table as well: book ID, title, published date, description, and all our 5 records are available. So in short, we are all set. Okay, our server, a source server, target S3 bucket, and a client to SQL is also connected, and we also have a database and a table up and running. Okay, so let me go back to the presentation, and okay, so this is the presentation right here. Okay, there it is. So now let us begin with the actual steps for database migration service. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create an IAM role that provides a read-write access to S3. Remember, we are going to create a bunch of folders and create a file in S3, and also read-write access to RDS. So that is our first step, guys. So let us go ahead and do that. So I'm going to switch back to my AWS console. Okay, and let me switch to IAM. So this is IAM right there. And here we will create a new role. And again, since this is for demo purposes, and I just want to ensure that we have the right amount of access for for our role, I'm just going to go ahead and give full access to S3, okay, and RDS as well. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new role right here, and it is going to be for DMS, and it will select DMS right there. Click next on permissions, and I'm just going to keep this simple, guys. Again, the focus is not on security over here. The focus is on database migration. So I'm going to go ahead and select S3. And basically, I'm just going to use one of the available policies instead of creating an inline policy with a set of permissions. And I'm going to review. And I'm going to give this the name as MySQL to S3. Okay. And create the role. So our role should be created in a few minutes. This sometimes takes a while. So there it is. Okay, so our role has been created. So let us review it. And we need to also provide access to RDS. So as you see, it has access to S3 because it's going to write over there. And I'm also going to go ahead and attach policies. Again, I'm going to use one of the available managed policies for RDS because it needs to attach RDS. It needs to basically connect to RDS and also have permissions to read the database and the table, and also extract or basically select information from our table. So I'm going to just go ahead and provide full access at this time. And the policy has been attached. And as you see, our role has two policies. Oh, I selected the wrong one. It looks like that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I selected Alexa by mistake. Sorry, guys. Okay, there it is. So now I have the Amazon RDS full access. Perfect. And this is the ARN for my role. So I'm going to copy this and just going to stick it on my notepad right here somewhere. Okay, we will be using the ARN for this role when we set up the actual migration task. Okay, and the endpoints. Okay, so our role has been created. So that was the first step. The next thing is now to go to the AWS Database Migration Service and create the replication instance. Now, ensure that you create the instance for the smallest size, like DBT to micro. Again, even if you select the smallest size, you can still incur charges for the replication instance. Okay, only a few instances are free, but yeah, you can still potentially go ahead and still incur charges for your replication instance. I'm going to switch now, and I'm going to go to Database Migration Services right here. And the first thing that we will do is we'll create a replication instance. So click on replication instances. So here is replication instances. And then as you see, only list instances labeled free comply with our free DMS program guidelines. You can visit this page. I've tried this several amount of times. I've typically not seen a free instance, but anyways, you can feel free to explore this, and if you're able to get a free instance, that's perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create the replication instance now. Okay, and I'm going to give this a name, DMS replication instance, and I'm going to give the same as the description as well, and ensure that the T2 micro is selected. So it's going to be DMS T2 micro, and it's going to be in my default VPC. It's not going to be multi-AZ, and you can leave it publicly accessible, that's fine. In advanced, ensure that your allocated storage is around 8 GB is fine. It's going to be in my default VPC. I'm going to put this in US East 1A, and the security group that I'm going to associate is going to be the default security group. Remember, we had modified our RDS to ensure that both EC2 and default security groups can communicate over 3306 port. Okay, and let's go ahead and create this replication instance. So it generally takes a while to create the replication instance. Okay, so I'm going to refresh and see, as you see, it's creating right now. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is, after we have created our replication instance, is to create a source endpoint for MySQL table and then test the endpoint. And after that, we need to create a target endpoint for our S3 bucket and test the S3 endpoint as well. So I'm going to switch back, and we are going to create a couple of endpoints. Now, we can go ahead and create the endpoint, guys, but you will not be able to test the endpoint until the replication instance is going to be available. Okay, so it is still taking some time. So I'm going to go ahead and click on endpoints right now. And let's try and create an endpoint. It's right there, it's coming up. So it's going to be a source endpoint. And as you see, it gives you an option over here to select RDS DB instance. So check this option. And as you see, it automatically selected our RDS MySQL server. It's given an endpoint identifier as a source. And again, the source engine is MySQL. And it has also got our servers DNS right there. The port is 3306, which is the right port. We are not going to encrypt, so it's going to be SSL. Again, my username is mydms2018, and copy this over here. The same username. I'm going to copy this because the same thing is my password. And okay, let us check any advanced options that we need. Okay, I think we are good with the advanced options right here. And for VPC, this is going to be in my default VPC. And the replication instance is the one that we just created. I believe our instance is up and running now. So it is giving us the option to run the test. So let's run this test and check if it's successful. Okay, so the replication instance is still not active. So once the replication instance is active, only then it will allow me to go ahead and test this endpoint. So I'm going to give this a few minutes and I'll pause my recording. And once the instance is up and it allows me to test the endpoint, I will resume recording again. So server is up and running now and it's available. As you see, it's right here. It's available now. So we should be able to now test this. So let us try and test this endpoint. So click on run test. And generally testing the endpoint also takes a while, and hopefully all our params are correct and the test is successful. If the test fails, then we'll have to figure out if any parameters are incorrect. So generally, let's say if you are trying this by yourself and the endpoint connection test fails, just check your the DNS of your server or the port or the username or the password. These are generally the 4 parameters which you tend to goof up. Okay, so our connection was tested successfully and a source has been created. So we are going to go ahead and click on save right here. So as you see, our source endpoint is now active. The next step for us was to basically create the target endpoint, as you see over here, for our S3 bucket and test that endpoint. So let's go ahead and do that. So click on create endpoint, and this is going to be a target, and we're going to give it the name as S3 target, and the engine over here is going to be S3, and we need the service access role ARN. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the ARN of our role right here. Okay, and paste it. And the bucket name that we had was my DMS bucket for CSV. I'm not going to give any folder over there. And in the advanced options, just leave it blank at this time. VPC is going to be default VPC. And the instance is the instance that we just created, the replication instance. And click on run test. Okay, so it takes a couple of minutes to complete this endpoint testing. And hopefully this is successful. Again, if this part is not successful or if you get any errors, definitely check your bucket name, check the role access. It should have for read-write access to S3. And that was one of the main reasons. I mean, when I was trying this earlier, I was getting a lot of errors. So I just kind of decided to go ahead and give full access to the particular role. Okay, so connection was tested successfully. So our target endpoint is also active and connected. So after we have created our endpoints, the next step for us is to basically go ahead and create the actual task to migrate the data. And this task will actually migrate the data from our MySQL, which is a source, and to our S3 bucket, which is our target endpoint. And after we have created the task, we need to run the task. And finally, after a task is run, and it runs successfully, hopefully, in that case, it should create a .csv file in our S3 bucket under the folder library and a subfolder called as books. Okay, so let's click on tasks right here and create a new task. And we are going to give this a name as MySQL to S3. Okay, this is our application instance right there. This is a source endpoint. As you see, it's selected our MySQL source endpoint, our S3 target endpoint, and migration type is migrating existing data. And we check the start task on create because we want this task to immediately start. In target, drop tables on target is fine. Anyways, this is an S3 and you can't do much on S3 except like creating a table or dropping a table or truncating. So it's not actually a table, it's a folder essentially and a file. So drop tables on target option is just fine. We don't have any LOBs. I'm not going to include any LOBs right there. And then for our table mappings right here, we're going to use the guided version. So you want to select where. So the name of the schema, as you see, is library is coming up on its own because the endpoint is connected. And the name of the table is books. And the action is include and say add selection rule. So basically it is going to uh, look for the schema library and look for the table books and migrate all the data from this particular books table into a CSV and post that CSV in our S3 bucket. So go ahead and click on create task. And after our task is created, remember we had checked the start task on create option. So it should immediately start after it has been created. Now here you can see the overview and here you can see the actual table statistics as to how many records were read and loaded to our in our S3 bucket in the CSV essentially. So keep on refreshing this as you see right here, it is still creating right now. So once it is in a running state, then we will be able to see. So as you see, it's starting now. So try and see, okay, there is nothing over here in table statistics. Again, click here and the moment it is in the running state, we should be able to see something in our table statistics, how many records. So remember we have 5 records and all those 5 records should be extracted and copied to a CSV file. So it is still starting. Okay. Okay, there it is. Okay. I think it's already ran. It's not yet, it's not refreshing correctly. But as you see, library, schema, books, table completed. So it's already completed the road. It has loaded 5 records in total. Okay. And there it is. It was running and then it went directly to load complete. Awesome. So if we go back now to our S3 bucket, so this is our S3 bucket right here. And we should be able to see the library folder and the subfolder called as books. And in that subfolder, we should see our CSV file. So click on our bucket right here. As you see, this is our library folder. Under our library folder is books. Under books is our CSV file right there. So there it is. If you want, you can go ahead and download this file and try and open it. Okay, so let me try and open this. It is probably downloaded in my downloads folder. So there it is, downloads. There it is, my CSV is right there. And you can open this in Excel, and it should actually have all the records in this. So as you see, this is right here. So as you see, all our records, all the 5 records have been extracted out successfully to our CSV file. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty much it from me, guys. I mean, this was a quick tutorial on AWS Database Migration Services, and you can pretty much migrate from any database to any database. I mean, this one is MySQL to S3. You can even go the reverse route, that is from S3 to MySQL, and I'll have a separate video created for that, or probably from MySQL to SQL Server or Postgres, or MySQL to Aurora, or potentially any other database. So hopefully this tutorial was helpful and it cleared your doubts and laid a good foundation around database migration services. The steps are the same. A few properties will change here and there depending upon the type of database, but the tasks and the whole process of migrating data from one database to the other database is the same. Okay, guys, so thank you very much, and please post your comment if you like my video. Do like it, and please subscribe to my channel so you will be the first one to know the moment I post any new videos. So thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.